This is Hunt Nebraska, the official podcast for insight into Nebraska's hunting and shooting sports community. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, our space for sharing stories, information, tips, and techniques. Now, Hunt Nebraska. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been way too long since we've been able to sit in the Hunt Nebraska cabin and catch our breath. When is the last time? When's the last time?
Well, a lot of turkey season, a lot of fishing.
Early turkey season, but we got into the expo season, school days with the Outdoor Discovery Program, a few different conferences, events, symposiums.
Probably the beginning of the month. It's probably early May.
Boy, I'd have to almost say
ambitious.
Into April. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's been a while.
We're running a blog or not here. I mean, we got to blog more often than by God.
Podcast?
Podcast, blog.
Well, if you listen,
Whatever we're doing on this magical thing
blog.
called the internet.
Gotta do it enough.
Start over.
All right, that's Jeff. Kayla pushing the buttons there on mission control. Hunter, our hunter ed coordinator for the state of Nebraska. Myself, Hershey. Welcome, and thanks for letting us join you on your trip home or to the office or out to the field. Maybe headed out fishing, wherever you might be listening to us. Hey, we just love going along for the ride.
And apparently, this is a podcast.
This is a little bit of both. We got the video up there. We've got the audio, and folks, you can listen to us audio via any of the platforms where you download podcasts and other audio treats. But also, you can watch us if you want to. And there are some people there's some interesting people that actually watch us on YouTube as well. You're going to want to check that out. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe, so you know anytime and every time one of these drops. But you're right, it was turkey season, and now we are recording this. It's done. Turkey season is done. By the time folks are listening to this, anyway, it's done. We're down to hours.
How'd you do?
Okay. I don't feel like I got out enough.
No, never do. I mean, you just never can. There's just no way.
What about you guys?
Same. I did get out several times. One of the kids that I've been mentoring, he did not. We did not seal the deal on a tom this year, and that was a little hard to take.
That was different for Nebraska.
Yeah. They're still talking about that, but anyway, other than that, saw plenty of birds at different times. Heard plenty of gobbles at different times. Other times not, but it was a good season. I'd put it up in the top 30.
I've said it many times. Rarely do spring turkey seasons ever end, or once you get to the end, you ever look back and say, "Boy, that went exactly as I thought it would." It went by script. It was perfect. This one's been different. What have you seen out there, Hunter?
I scouted this year more than I hunted this year.
Is that what you call it when you don't get a bird?
You've got a valid reason at home now.
Yeah, somewhat. Now that we see why we see a dip in this age range, because young kids and busy lives and young careers. But no, I didn't get out nearly as much as I wanted to. I heard some good stories. Obviously, you talk to people on the phone and hear people and see pictures of people doing good things. But yeah, I scouted and saw some birds and hunted a short bit and never got onto one for real. So I'm already looking forward to the fall seasons here.
I'm kind of one of those voracious. I like to take video or pictures when I'm in the blind turkey hunting. And I was going back perusing through the last 5 or 6 years because I never erase anything off my phone ever. I just don't even know if that's possible. And I have a lot of seasons with a lot of birds on it. And this year, there was again, I got plenty of pictures and video, but not near what I've had in past seasons, to put it that way. So, how about you?
well, I'm going to go the route of hunter, and I got more scouting than hunting done, mainly because I didn't get a day in the field this year at all, so
He's got a young one at home. You've got a Clayton at home. Is
sure
that comparable, or is that?
A little bit, yeah.
Can't leave him home alone, can you?
Sure can.
Gotta have oversight, yeah. No, well, that's all right. That's all right, though. I mean, you were busy, though. You had quite a bit going on. Plus, this job here, I know, was kind of.
Oh, yeah, that keeps me on my toes.
Well, I think it.
I sleep here. I eat here.
That's how we like it to work, by golly.
Well, the good news for Hunter is next year when Frosty's over a year old, they make great camouflage suits and they fit right into the pouch, and they make game vests for getting those youngsters out there, and things can change now. In the world of spouses, I don't know how. I'm not sure there's a vest big enough to carry Clayton around or
It'd
anything
be the
like
opposite.
that.
He'd have to have a vest for me. I'd have to do a piggyback or something on.
There you
on
go.
His back.
There might be some hope yet. I gotta say, in one word, if I was to sum up Nebraska spring turkey season 2023,
I know what word you're going to use.
it would be wind. Wind. I mean, early on the wind blew.
Yeah.
And we had some cooler temperatures here and there. We had some hot temperatures right at the end as well. But the wind, every time we really got excited about it, in the morning, usually, I mean, we're on the Great Plains, I understand, but usually in the morning it calms down enough to where you can hear yourself think and you can hear birds that are within 100 yards of you, but there were days that didn't happen. It was 15, 20 mile an hour winds all night long. You get up and you just listen to the wind blow.
We had a season of extremes, and we had extreme wind and cold, and I mean bone-chilling cold. There was times that I was out in the turkey woods, and I'm just sitting there shivering. And I mean, I had all my stuff on, but, for some reason, if it's like, middle of deer season, and it's 20 degrees out, you're dressed for it, right? I mean, you got stuff on that you can't even imagine you found half that stuff, right?
It's supposed to be cold.
Well, it's supposed to, exactly. And you're in turkey season, and you kind of remember a warm, beautiful day. So you're out there in a sweatshirt with maybe a vest on, and regular old pants and some shoes, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh, if this was November, I'd have just bear hide over the top of me. Here I am, man. So part of that's my own fault, but we're talking some, voracious winds, and bone chilling cold. And then late in the season, it got hot. And I mean, we didn't have the winds, thankfully, but it was hot. And if you were in a ground blind the last few days of the season, you were toasty.
Yeah, and this side of the state dry. I think water kind of had an impact on that or lack of it in some areas. But I don't know. It definitely, like I said, you can never predict a spring turkey season. But this one here, I think that there were times where those birds got tired of the wind and didn't show themselves as often as they normally do in Nebraska, and stayed kind of in those dips and curves of the terrain that allowed them to stay out of the wind more often than not. So we'll see. Now, I got to say, the big litmus test, though, each year is, did this season get you more interested next spring in the 2024 turkey season? I got to say, I know I'm getting out more next year.
If I don't get out more next year, I don't know what I'm doing.
You're not a hunter. You're not a hunter.
I was just saying, there's a term for lapse.
Yes,
It's called lapse.
We're not going to allow that. We don't allow that. Not in this office. Friends don't allow friends to lapse. That's just pretty. It's kind of a knowledge. Nothing every year. I'm pumped. I'm ready for next year. It did nothing to do with the season. I like turkey hunting. I mean, there's a few things I live for: handgun and deer, and then of course chasing turkeys. And so I'm ready to go for next year because the thing of it is, Hershey, you and I've talked about this. One more gobble. I just need to hear one more gobble and see one more strutting Tom dancing out there in front of me. And after that one, I'm craving the next one. And after the next one, I'm craving, and it just never ends. I thought it would. I really thought 30 years ago I'd scratch that itch. It just keeps itching. I mean, it's getting addictive. Worse and worse. Yeah.
It truly is addictive.
Yep.
So, folks, that's not what we're actually here to talk about by any means. That's just some... what do you want to say? Suffering kind of goes to better, it's called therapy, I guess, when you get a group of people together and talk about the suffering that the spring turkey season addiction has caused.
I'm Jeff Rollins. I only got one turkey.
The first step is admitting there's
a problem. Oh, there's a problem.
But the actual reason for our get together is to look back on a little history and celebrate color. And just to kind of show you that it's been a while since we've been in here. Hunter, I think you brought this to our attention. Our good friends at OnX put together a little article on the history of Hunter orange that is dated, folks, April 27th of 2023. So this has been out for a little bit, but it's definitely kind of neat. I highly suggest you read it if you haven't. You can find it online, again, OnX, the history of Hunter orange, because it is one of those colors that if you've just joined the hunting ranks, you assumed it's been around forever.
Yeah, and it's not that long.
No. Especially for you and me.
Yeah, it's not that long. I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. But yeah, you think that, gosh, but here's the deal. You remember seeing all the older photos, the 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s, vintage hunting photos What are they wearing?
Plaid.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is
red plaid.
Oh gosh, yeah. You know, for me, growing up as a kid, that was what I dreamed about. That just plaid, deer hunters out there in the field. Sometimes out a pipe. You know, it's just like, gosh, that was it.
And then Hunter Orange took it away
and
from
then
you.
Hunter Orange came in, and by golly, it started saving lives and everything.
I remember that kind of brown cotton duck as well. That was a really common color for a lot of those that were camouflage, the waterfowl hunters and even some bird hunters early on to match the grass out there, because that was kind of the idea: stay undetected, be that color. And it just so happened that some of those work clothes of the time were those colors, and those were what you grabbed to go hunting. I guess that's one big change as well. I'm not sure that back in the day, hunters actually had hunting clothes like we do now. That wardrobe that we keep special for certain times of the year. If spring turkey season, I've got that in a tote now, ready for storage until next spring. My fall stuff, my archery deer stuff's in a different bag, in a different box, in a different spot in the house compared to my pheasant hunting stuff. I think back in the day, you just kind of wore what you wore to work, what you wore to, if you were out on the farm or the ranch or something like that.
It was the 90s when it started becoming gear. We started referring to our hunting clothing as gear. But before that, it was not gear. Like you said, it was just clothes. And it was usually Carhartts or something like that. Or if, you know, you're cool enough to have that plaid, you know, it might be Woolworth or Filson or something like that. But yeah, all of a sudden it became gear. And you had to have a lot of it. More gear, the better.
You do. And we pay a pretty good penny of it. So Hunter, being the hunter education coordinator and being that you get to talk to a lot of folks, volunteer instructors, students of hunter education, all that type of stuff, and do a lot of press releases each year on Hunter Orange. Give us a little lowdown. You read this article probably more thoroughly than the rest of us.
I've read it a couple times, but you know,
see, already right there, boom. I only got through it 1.5 times.
So there's an article.
There's an article. It's a good article.
Okay.
I don't know who at Onyx put it together. I'm not sure it says here,
Have you
but
seen this article yet?
I have, yeah.
it
God.
talks on the origins of.
Son of a gun.
You're the only one who has it?
Who sent it out?
I sent it out
Hunter
twice.
sent it out twice.
I got to start looking at your
Third
emails.
time's the charm. Third time's the charm.
I got to start looking at your emails. Did it come from, does it say Hunter on there? Anything says Hunter.
I don't know how we ever
make
make.
it. Was a link.
Apparently
How does this Hunt Nebraska blog even work? Huh? I mean, that's what's going
So we're
on.
going to keep it now. Is that the deal? we're not changing the intro now.
Well, you know, fish
It's a podcast, Hershey. Get it straight. Okay.
Fish and wildlife agencies like to drive their decisions by science and public input, and this was really a mid-century experiment conducted at a military base, as the first sentence says, but looking at different colors in the field using military personnel in, I think, Massachusetts in the late 1950s, early 1960s, that looked at different colors. And this was kind of right when your fluorescent colors were coming to fruition in the late 50s, but they looked at white, non-fluorescent yellow, non-fluorescent bright red, and then 4 of the newest fluorescents, blaze orange, fire orange, neon red, and arc yellow. In all field scenarios, I think they had over 22,000 sample points to see which was the most effective of those military tests.
And hold on just a second, because this is one of those neat things. This is something that came out of, I believe, World War II, the fluorescent day glow type materials and paints at that time. And it took a little while for us to get into clothing and what have you. But it just wasn't really available. It wasn't a color like we know it as now in all the fabrics and forms that we had. In fact, earlier on, just before this study took place, there was kind of a safety yellow that was being touted, and that was on something that they were doing out in California in 1956. Can you imagine if we would have stuck with that safety yellow?
You know, I think a lot of people, as we got to putting that into practical use, would have started realizing that probably is not the right color in nature. And that's the beauty of blaze orange. It's just not found in nature. And, of course, we use everything from linemen to construction work. And, I mean, everybody knows what blaze orange is. It's a color of safety. It means, human person. And so it's really taken on since the 60s. And, of course, when you look at hunter education, as we enter the 70s, when most states started coming up with, mandatory throughout the 70s, mandatory hunter education laws and blaze orange laws at the same time, we really started impacting the incident rates in the field. And so obviously it's had a huge impact, and it's cool.
So
Very
tell us a
cool.
little bit more about this study and what they found and what were the top colors.
The goal of the study was to determine exactly which color or colors stood out best in the field, and I think it was headed by the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Game in partnership with that military, but they did those tests using those different colors that we mentioned before, and blaze orange, hunter orange, safety orange, whatever you want to call it, was that only color that was never confused to be another color by one of the soldiers in the test. So even those with eye color deficiencies still were able to see that blaze orange, which was pretty interesting.
So this is kind of interesting. If I remember right, so what they did is they took members of the armed forces and they actually figured out, they represented the general public. Here's people that can see colors. Here's a certain percentage within the overall United States population that is colorblind or have deficiencies in certain color spectrums, and they included the appropriate percentage of those in that area as well. And then I believe they presented targets where they were white, and then the colors you mentioned, and they were only supposed to shoot at the white colored targets.
Yep.
And if they saw a color and they assumed it was white, they were supposed to shoot at. If they saw a color that wasn't white, hold their fire. And only one of those colors was never mistaken for white. Of all those colors, from the yellows and the reds and the oranges, the only color that they did not ever mistake for white is hunter orange. Yeah. Which is pretty impressive.
It is impressive. And there's a neat side article of this thing, too, because if I recall, the gentleman who conducted the studies was, isn't it Woolen or Woolworth or something like that, and his connection was his brother or brother-in-law, I think it was his brother, was a game warden, if I recall, worked for Massachusetts Fish and Wildlife. And so that's where that connection came together with the U.S. military and hunting. So it's kind of a neat side note, but, the rest becomes history after this test, and got most states kind of in that path of, hey, we've got to do something to make this mandatory.
Changed the hunting landscape probably far more than they realized at the time. They were looking for just a safety color because hunting incidents, what they called accidents for many years, too high, not only in Massachusetts but across the U.S. for people mistaken for game. They needed that safety color, and probably a good thing they did this because yellow, we found out, wasn't necessarily what we thought it was as far as safety. Blends in, like you mentioned, Jeff. The hunter orange kind of changed. So about 1960. So if my math is right, that's a long time ago. How at 40 to...
You nailed it. I mean, you're spot
60
on.
years?
Yeah.
60, 70 years?
63 years.
1960 spot on.
63 years.
Wow.
Here in Nebraska, though, it took a little while for all states to adopt this.
Well, think about it, Nebraska.
Or mandate. I should say mandate.
Talking,
and they're still not quite there yet, but the majority certainly do now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Being one of them, but
not all states require it for any of their hunting. Here in Nebraska, I'm looking at you, Jeff, because you probably remember this. Hunter orange was mandated approximately what year?
Gosh, you're right. 72.
So I was thinking right around the same time hunter education started.
73, and then hunter education came in 74.
So I found the original legislative bill.
Oh, did you really? Let's hear what it says.
March 6th, 1972, is signed by the governor.
Right there.
So it probably took effect in 73.
And it really hasn't surprisingly changed very much since the introduction of the law. Any person hunting deer or antelope with a firearm in this state shall display on his head, chest, and back a total of not less than 400 square inches of hunter orange material.
Yeah, and I like our law as compared to
almost
a lot of
50
states.
years, a little over 50 years.
Yeah. It hasn't had to change really because the reality of it is it was worded really well in my opinion because a lot of states there's a lot of wiggle room. What does that mean? Ours is simple. If you read it and go, what is that? That's a vest and a hat. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And you can put as much on as you want, but you better have at least that vest and hat on. And if you've got a vest and hat on, you're good to go. Which is
true, and we can kind of get into it. Every state's a little different. And in fact, at the end of this article, those states that require blaze orange for whatever it is, big game, small game, upland bird, is listed in that OnX article, which is kind of cool. But not all states do it. We were looking at a couple that don't have that requirement for anything related to hunting. That is not a bad idea to wear it. But I know some states have found some incidents, or what most people call accidents, could be attributed to having gaps within that blaze orange coverage. And like you said, Jeff, front, back, and head kind of covers most of what is visible. I heard one that used to have, and they probably still do, I don't know. They had the orange vest that you just kind of stuck your head through, and it caught the front of you and the back of you, but nothing on the sides. And I know there were some hunting incidents attributed to someone being turned sideways where they couldn't see that front or back of the orange, and they didn't have anything on the head because it wasn't required, and then being mistaken for game and shot at, which is kind of scary. Well, hey, it's there for your safety. Now, Jeff, you're old enough to know this or remember some of this. Ever remember there being some resistance, even as you were growing up in your early years of being a hunter, resistance to wearing the orange?
And I was barely old enough, but I can tell you that throughout the 70s, there was always that, those people that just, I don't need to wear that, I don't want to wear that. But I guess I'd say I was pretty impressed in Nebraska that by and large, people just automatically flock to it. And you see that today, big game hunters, always wish they could disappear better. And so that's always an element. But I think our compliance in Nebraska is very, very, very good when it comes to blaze orange. Yep, there's always somebody who thinks they don't need a hat or something like that. But I think our compliance is very good. What I'm amazed by and happy to see, because we've pushed this through education for a lot of years, is the number of hunters who wear blaze orange for the non-required seasons. And primarily I'm talking upland game. And when you're out in the field, should it have been mandatory for upland game hunters? My first blush would be, heck yeah, makes sense. But the reality of it is, just about most of what you buy for clothing is in upland game hunting is blaze orange or has patches of blaze orange in different places. But outside of big game hunting, if there ever was another need for it, upland game hunting, and I'm always impressed by how many blaze orange hunters we see out in the field when it's not even required.
Yeah, well, I think you're making an important point there, because you think about states start doing this in the early 60s after this study comes out. It takes a while for some of those states to jump on board, but really, the industry has to pick up and start producing quality products that are going to be used for this. People have to start buying those products, and has to be a supply to be compliant with it too. And I think the industry certainly has, even beyond, and probably because some states require it for upland and some states don't, and it's easier to make something that's compliant everywhere than it is to make something that's not compliant in one state and
that's a good point.
In the other,
make this to sell in one state or all states, right? And so states or manufacturers did an incredible job in the 70s and 80s, just switching right over to making what everybody needed for blaze orange, and it looks cool too. I mean, there's some pretty cool looking stuff in blaze orange. It's not like it's wearing a gunny sack. I mean, it's pretty cool looking stuff.
A gunny sack.
I mean,
that's for cool the Generation Xers and older right there, that reference. One of the things, though, that, like you said, a lot of technology out there, it seems to me like there's more colors, period. We've got a kind of an array of hunter orange items here, a couple of hats and a vest, and one of the things that I will say is that pick your orange wisely.
Well, look at these three. I mean, you've got three different spectrum colors on the spectrum here. Yeah, that's a really vibrant blaze orange, probably what most people think of as blaze orange. And then this hat here that I guarantee
nice color.
It would probably pass for blaze orange, but
it just doesn't pop.
It doesn't pop. It doesn't have that pop factor, right? Well, whereas this one pops. Shows smudges, but it pops.
Shows smudges. Because that's a concern. But that's one of the neat things. Haven't we all been in those low light conditions, whether it's right at the beginning of shooting light or just after sunset or just after shooting, how that day glow is a good name. I mean, that orange almost looks like it glows.
Yeah, and that's what you really want. I mean, like you said, you're kind of protecting yourself. So, the most vibrant color, because you can go to three different stores and find three different colors of blaze orange vest, right? So I mean, it's a buyer's market, right? You can buy whatever you want.
How many of us have used the same hat or vest or something like that as our blaze orange for a deer season, muzzleloader, rifle, archer during certain times, whatever, and then you put it down beside that brand new orange garment, and you realize, wow, it doesn't stay that bright from the time you buy it to 10 years down the road.
I'm probably about due for a new vest. My vest has gotten dirty and washed and dirty and washed.
Yeah.
But
and equally as important is the pockets, right? Because I'm a pocket guy. When I have a vest, it's got to have pockets for like the granola bars and a couple cans of pop and calls and binocular. I mean, I load. So I recently bought a new gear vest. I think it was Cabela's gear vest that had pockets and a big map pocket in the back or backpack type pocket, and I can carry a lot of creature comforts for the day. But I noticed how bright it was. I mean, it just shot. I mean, I'm walking down the aisle, and no, I'll never forget it because I'm walking down the aisle. And there's just glow around the corner, and I go around the corner, and there's this vest, and it's just glowing. And there's other orange, but it didn't have that glow.
Didn't have that glow.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
In reading this is the article that Onyx puts together goes into what deer can see, and part of that is talking about new blaze orange and. They recommend even washing it a few times because it may have some ultraviolet enhancements and brighteners from the factory that really pop to the human eye, but can also come across a little blue to deer. So maybe there's not something wrong to washing that blaze orange a little bit.
Now, if we have any Gen Xers that are listening, they might remember that there was a UV killer laundry detergent or spray that you could put on your hunting garbage to eliminate that ultraviolet stuff. Now, what you have to watch out for is some of the detergent, especially the normal everyday detergents, oftentimes have UV brighteners, and in fact, it'll say that on the label at times. There are some, so it gets added back at times if you wash it under the wrong.
So muddy it up instead.
Well, if we're going to go that route, we need to have a disclaimer because these are things you learn in life, and no one tells them to you. But if you go out and buy a brand new blaze orange vest, coat, pants, jacket, whatever. I agree. Washing it's not a bad idea. It's not a light color. Don't wash it with the lights because it's considered a dark color. The problem is the first time you wash it, it's also considered something that should be alienated from the rest of the clothing. Ask me how I know. Well, I can tell you right now there's some lights in our household that have a real orange hue to them that came off of one of those first vests. So word to the wise.
Oh, there you go.
Word to the wise.
Now, the article mentions some parameters as far as what hunter orange actually looks like or what that day glow color is. And I know some states actually reference that. I don't think that Nebraska does necessarily in statute, or do we?
We do. We're close to what.
We're close.
And I don't know where this study pulled the exact definition of blaze orange from. It doesn't cite it. Maybe it was the deer lab at University of Georgia that did the Can the Deer See Orange study, but the exact definition of blaze orange according to this is a dominant wavelength between 595 and 605 nanometers, luminance factor of not less than 50%, and an excitation purity of not less than 90%. If you know all what those.
So look on the tags, folks, and make sure I have no idea how you know that. I think it's one of those things that if it's bright and it almost kind of hurts your eyes, glows a little bit in those low light conditions, you're good. Yep. If you notice it's really starting to fade, it's time to replace it, upgrade to something new and safer and all that type of stuff, because I don't know how you measure nanometers in the field.
Yeah,
I mean, that's going to be the next thing that perhaps some of these groups come out with. They have age your buck on the hoof. Now they're going to have estimate nanometers in the field.
If your nanometers are drop below 537 on your orange, you're good chance the deer are going to see you. So
there you go.
That's what they say that deer can see. So there's one more reason to make sure your blaze orange is right in that higher range. Otherwise, you might be seen by.
Now, we should probably toss this out there. I think it's pretty well dispelled. Why is it we can get away wearing these really glowing oranges, but deer don't seem to mind them?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Deer don't see the same color wavelengths that people see. In fact, these are considered, if I recall, long wavelength colors. And deer pick up pretty good in the short wavelength colors, but they don't pick up in the long colors like we do. For example, blue is a short wavelength color, and deer can see blues. Getting into the greens, they can see a little bit of that, but it's getting intermediate to long. When you get into these colors here, reds and oranges, that's long, and they don't see them very well. So what do these look like to deer? They look like gray and tan patches. So they look about as neutral and muted as it can get.
Yeah. And did you click on the link in that article that brought up that research article done by the University of Georgia? I think it was linked there, and it shows their research kind of shows videos within the deer's perspective of what things
cool.
going through the woods look like.
I have not looked at that. I just
kind of neat side piece of the article that the article references, so you could see what blaze orange looks like to the deer.
Well, I think if we would have a conversation with the deer or the coyotes or the elk and everybody else is out in the field there, I think we'd realize that most of what we buy is for us. It's marketed to us because what deer and other wildlife can see is very different than what we portray they can see based on what we're selling in the stores. Let's put it that way.
Yep.
And it's cool. But, for example, there was this research out there years ago about what coyotes can see in the field. And it was very similar to what they felt like deer could see. But a lot of the camouflage had such small characteristics or differentiating characteristics, but to most wildlife, they just look like a blob, a black blob, and they could easily see the outline. And so, that's just something to keep in mind. I think hunters would be better off learning about what the animal sees.
Now, one of the things I'll toss out there, Kayla, is you and I do some upland bird hunting, having premier pheasant dogs. Boom, right there. But they can see color. They can see orange. They can see colors that we can't even think about. We don't even have that named in the Crayola box. But the one thing, and that's where I saw the most resistance early on, Jeff, is why would you wear orange? The birds are going to see you. They're going to flush up. They're going to see you. They're going to fly. Most of my bird hunting, they know I'm there. I've got 2 dogs running around, making noise through the grass, trying to sniff them out. They can hear me. They can feel me through me stomping through the cattails and the prairie grass and all that type of stuff. A lot of upland bird hunting is not reliant on sneaking up on them a whole bunch. We don't draw any extra attention to ourselves, but by the time they see that orange, they already know we're there. And so that's one of those things. Some states have requirements. Yep. Nebraska, we're not one of them, but like you said, Jeff, a lot of folks wear it quite a bit. Now I'm going to jump into some other colors since we have Hunter here who we've stole from Wisconsin. He's got his article all highlighted in pink because in 2015, folks, some changes happened to Wisconsin. This was something we heard about, Jeff, a national talk on. In fact, even some things here. And folks, I'm going to give you a little backstory. I actually did a written blog on this color of Hunter Pink out there and had our good photo librarian at the time, Sarah Johnson, doctor up some deer hunting pictures with hot pink colors. Kayla's picture, one of the photos her dad sent me, got doctored up, but that was one of them. Yep. Also had a BOW, Becoming an Outdoors Woman, deer hunt that I doctored up some pictures. My famous is Last Chance Deer Camp, where she randomly picked people. That one I got calls about real fast. But then all of a sudden, after that blog, I got calls from states, including Wisconsin, some others that were looking at it and saying, hey, where did you find that jacket? Where did you find that vest? We need to see some of this hot pink. And I had to let them down easy that it was photoshopped. But definitely 2015, Wisconsin came in and said, hey, if you want to wear Hunter Pink instead of Hunter Orange, it's okay.
Apparently that's how it went.
And did you run to the store and get your hot pink?
I don't own any articles of hot pink yet. I've seen it though, and it's kind of when you see a group of blaze orange hunters and then there's one person with hot pink or fluorescent pink, whatever you call it, they stand out in a group of blaze orange. I'm not sure. I can't say I've ever seen it in the field yet in a trial situation, but
I've seen pink in the field. I don't know if I've seen Hunter Pink or not. I do know some individuals, live with one, who that might be their favorite colors. Okay. And so I've kind of grown accustomed to it. That right there, we found one piece of pink paper in the office.
We searched the entire Hunter Ed archives. We could not find hot pink clothing anywhere.
Well, it's one of those things that I think that unlike Hunter Orange, where the material, it was talked about in safety and for use in hunting before it was commonly available, hot pink was commonly available, and then we started having that conversation. So even the definition of what hot pink or Hunter Pink was, I know was a sticking point in some areas.
And I don't know, what did you find the definition? What's the wavelength requirement?
I have not. I have not studied. I've just got more pictures here from Wisconsin. And just I wanted to find the bill that talked about it. So there were a lot of variants there. I'm sure there's a wavelength matched up with it, but I don't know.
Believe me, if you're wearing hot pink in the field, no one's likely going to worry about the wavelength. It's going to be hot pink or it's not. I mean, that's the way it is.
When I found this piece of paper, it was almost blinding. I pulled it out from way down at the bottom. I was like, whoa, yep, that's pink.
This is another color, though, that, like you said, Jeff, with the long wavelengths, the deer don't pick up on. In fact, there was some, and I don't remember, folks, where the research was done, but saying deer have even a tougher time seeing pink anything other than as a natural color than they do hunter orange. But hunters saw that as another unnatural color and just about as visible or human induced, I guess you could say, as hunter orange. In some cases, that was more visible to those with some color vision deficiencies as well than the hunter orange.
And honestly, I think it's a great idea. I think hats off to Wisconsin because it's different. But it definitely stands out. I mean, you look at this hot pink, and it's going to stand out no matter where it's at.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, and I don't mean to sound sexist because I don't think that just women would wear hot pink. I think there's guys that would think that's cool. I'm going to wear the hot pink one, and give them some variety. But here's the deal: if this appeals. Say this appeals to women, and I don't know if there's any studies that suggest in Wisconsin or whatever that female hunters thought the hot pink was cool or not. But, what do we know about our hunting population? I mean, it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was about, women made up about 6%, 7%. Now it's about 10 to 11% of our hunting population is a female. And if this is considered maybe more closely related to being a guy's color, and this might not be, I think it's great. And if gals want to wear orange and guys want to wear pink, great. I think it's variety, and honestly, I think it looks kind of cool. To be totally honest. Yeah. I had a polo shirt about just like that. Well, it wasn't quite so fluorescent, but in high school, and I mean to tell you right now, it was a cool polo shirt.
We're going to need to see that picture as evidence.
Yeah, I think the mullet is going to be more concerning to you than the polo shirt. I think the mullet's going to suggest high school. But I think it's a cool color. I do. I think it's cool.
As long as it's safe? As long as it's safe and meets that
we already established parameters?
That. Yeah, and now 9 other states since Wisconsin.
Is there any? And I think Massachusetts.
Illinois, Louisiana, Maryland, Minnesota, Virginia, Wyoming, Washington, and New York.
No, not Massachusetts.
Unless it happened in the past month.
I thought I'd heard Massachusetts where it all began. But is there any research, though, that suggests, women prefer hot pink versus the blaze orange in those states?
In fact, I do believe when Wisconsin was helping push that through, there was some kickback as far as that being a women's color.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to suggest it is. I'm just saying give people variety.
Yeah, give people options. I think people flock to options. So
it is, because some people see that Blaze Orange Army as something different, or that's just something that's a bunch of old hunter types. This adds a little bit of new, and it's one of those things that hats off to them if that has helped any. I don't believe we've seen any increases in hunting incidents. Dare I say accidents in the state of Wisconsin?
No, I don't. My time there, I hadn't heard of any incidents occurring that involved hot or fluorescent pink. So I doubt. I don't know if there's any research on it, but I think you just look at some of the fluorescent colors, and there's probably others out there that are unnatural in the space.
I'm going to toss this color out because we're coming down to probably the end of this. Is the safety green or safety yellow, depending on who you talk to. What you see a lot of, it's road construction / deconstruction season here in the state of Nebraska. You see a lot of those folks that are out there working the roads, and thank you for the men and women that do that to give us a better, safer highway. But they're wearing that color, safety green, safety yellow, depending on who you talk to. And Jeff, I remember one of the first years I was here in Nebraska at the Nebraska State Fair. I believe either the State Patrol or maybe the Department of Transportation had a little place you could go look at the two vests in different situations. They had different videos, and you voted for which one you could see better. And they had a blaze orange, dare I say, hunter orange vest with the reflective panels on it, as well as the same type of vest with that safety green or yellow. And by far, most people voted for that safety yellow. They said that was easier to see in all conditions. And that's on the road. That's a little bit different, perhaps, interstate, city highway, that type of thing, a little bit different than in the woods, but very unnatural color as well. I haven't seen any states stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, we might allow that either. There definitely could be some of that, but that's another bright, unnatural color. Yep. Now, I will tell you this. This is something else I didn't hear about this. That is in the wavelengths that deer can see that color. Yellows, along with, like you said, the greens and the blues and stuff like that. Being that it's in that shorter wavelength, deer can see it. Now, it might not be as bright chartreusey green looking as what we see it, but it's definitely a color that they can start seeing.
Here, it looks like in Arkansas, you can wear a, 400 square inches of blaze orange or hunter safety greens. So I'm not sure if
that might be
considers that's hunter safety green or not. But I certainly, especially in the fall time, more colors that look like that green, yellow hue to me on the trees and leaves.
There's just nothing in the fall that looks like this.
No,
absolutely not. And that's one of the reasons I just think the hot pink is so cool myself, because this, again, I'm a variety guy. This is just, we've worn it for a long time. And if I had a hot pink hat that had some type of hunting slogan on it, I think it's cool. I just think it's cool.
Oh, it's interesting. And it's one of those things, technology moves forward. I'm sure there's going to be some other neat things that are out there and down the road that we probably can't even think of, that perhaps we can add to these fabrics that, shine to us and almost like a light bulb, where to deer and other critters, they don't see it at all. So
yeah, and I think we're right about, looking through all these different states, we're right about middle. Probably, I think the most common requirement is that 400 square inches on the head, back, and chest. And some other states have 500, some have less, some have 50% plus on the upper half of the body. Some unique. It looks like Alabama, you're exempt if you're at least 12 feet above the ground or in an enclosed blind. Some states have exemptions if you're in a blind. Some states require you to have that blaze orange on the blind. So there's certainly a lot of variability across the states. But in the end, I think that end goal and it certainly has helped reduce incidents and make hunting even more safe than it already was. So
there you go. More discussion to be had, I'm sure, on it as we move forward, as we change the way we hunt. Oftentimes can be a part of it as well. But overall, good thing. I'm glad they did this research way back when, and it stuck with us. And I'm glad that our hunters, as a nation, and definitely here in Nebraska, have really adopted that color as a hunting color, right along with camouflage. And Jeff's making a push there for hunter pink.
I think it's going to be cool. I think it'll be cool. Right now, this is it for Nebraska, but I see the merit.
There you go. All right, folks, let us know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you give us a thumbs up or subscribe, and that way you'll know when the next one drops. Until next time, Hunt Nebraska, brought to you by your Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.